The regular meeting of the South Burlington School Board to order on Wednesday, August 26th at 6:03 p.m. Agenda item 2, announcements and amendments to the agenda. Are there any announcements or amendments to the agenda? Nothing from me. Thanks. Okay. Agenda item 3, comments from the public. This is the community's opportunity to share feedback and concerns with the board. We ask that you keep your comments concise, 2 to 3 minutes, and that you refrain from using any information that would identify a specific person. Please raise your hand in the room or use the Zoom raised hand feature. We will only use the online chat to manage any tech issues. We are not able to take action on any issues brought to us during public comment. However, any board member may suggest tonight that the issue or question be added to a future agenda for discussion. We may also delegate addressing issues to our superintendent, Kyla Nichols. It is always helpful if you can email us a copy of your comments for follow-up. Is there any public comment? Room? Okay. Agenda item 4, focus on student learning, our student representative report.
Our first announcement is that each elementary school is holding an open house on August 23rd. K-5 students will officially go back on Monday, August 26th. So please visit each school's respective website for more information about house timing. The first day of school for 6th and 9th grade, as well as for all new transfer students, is Friday, August 23rd. And then returning students at the middle and high schools will begin on the 26th. And good luck to all of those who met. And then high school students will have their school photo and ID taken during their English class on either September 10th or 11th. So talk to your English teacher for more information when we get back to school.
Thank you. All right, agenda item 5, discussion items. We were going to have an update on the finance committee. Chris is not able to be here just now. I know that we're still accepting applications until noon on the 30th for the finance committee.
Just really quickly, I think Chris and I thought we were supposed to meet this weekend, but apparently we got our information crossed, so we didn't touch base. We did meet the week before and just laid out some thoughts, and we were trying to come up with a relevant timeline and such. Meetings, so on and so forth. So it was a really good discussion. I think he and I are going to gel really well in the committee. So looking forward to it.
All right, and the next discussion item is the city charter committee. So on Monday, the 19th, the city council had warned on their agenda city charter committee questions. So there's a committee that's formed to look at the city charter and make recommendations to the council. One of the questions was if the 2 school board appointed seats were meant to be permanent, or if they were just meant to be for the discussion of expanding the school board, which that discussion is concluded. I attended the meeting on behalf of the board and just advocated that we keep those seats, and that was well received by the council. So that seems to be the plan moving forward. Any questions? Okay. Agenda item 6, reports by the administration, superintendent's report. Scarlett.
All right, thanks. Good evening, everyone. So staffing update. Last week I reported we're in pretty good shape, and this week I have to the actual number how we shake out. So we are fully staffed for administrators. For teachers, we have very few openings. We have 1 teaching position open for our professional staff, which is exceptional. I'm really proud about this. There is an offer pending on this, and so that's pretty incredible. It's for a special educator at one of our elementary schools, and again, we've made an offer. So we are so close to being fully staffed for our teaching staff. I have some interesting categorical data that I wanted to share with you. For our most difficult positions, people in the room could probably guess our greatest shortage is bus drivers. Although I can share a pretty fantastic update about that, which is that we have two interviews scheduled for this week for bus drivers, which is awesome. We hired one new driver last week. And we have a retired driver who has decided to stay on as a substitute driver and a trainer for new drivers. That's massive progress, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot. But given the, the universal struggle for anyone to obtain employees who have CDLs, this is pretty unusual. I feel very fortunate. Thankful to the side letter, increasing the pay for drivers, paid training, referral bonuses. This is undoubtedly the best district to be a bus driver in. I also want to shout out to One Take Gable in the audience, Mark. It was the star of a commercial that he and I filmed, and he was fantastic. So
You were the star.
Blair, again, my daughter was also not impressed with the commercial. She found that to be boring as well. But post the commercial on your social media and share with your friends. Tell everyone you know. I was at the eye doctor yesterday recruiting for bus drivers. But I think our collective efforts are paying off, and I really want to thank Jean Marie Clark for that. There's a WCAX story that ran this morning on bus drivers. We had 3 new candidate inquiries received today. 3 in a day. I don't know that ever happens. The bad news, Student First is unable to provide us with any drivers. They cited the universal lack of drivers, and they too are having a hard time with drivers. So I'll continue discussions with Green Mountain Transit, but I want to cap the conversation on staffing first. So bus drivers is our most difficult position to fill, followed by interventionists and paraeducators, lunchroom and recess monitors. We have 1 opening for an IT systems engineer. We're competing nationwide with a market of applicants who are used to total remote work and significantly higher salaries than we as a school district are able to pay those who have a skill set which is pretty competitively paid in private industry. So this will remain a difficult position to fill. So those are our 4 categories of vacancy. As I met with my colleagues in the Champlain Valley Superintendents Association last Friday, I feel incredibly lucky to be reporting we're going to start the year with no teacher vacancies, fully staffed administrative team. Although, of course, we do have 2 members on medical leave, but that's unrelated, of course. And, looking at our positions, bus drivers and interventionists are the top 2 categories. Again, interventionists have a high burnout rate. Their jobs are often associated with supporting the needs of students with individualized education plans. And it's a skill set that most people don't have. So that's our greatest category. So if you're listening and you're a great interventionist, give us a call. And I want to thank Karen Dancher, Senior Director of HR, for providing staffing updates for you all to hear about this evening. So back to school update, my favorite time of year. We had an awesome welcome back social last Thursday. And for those of you who watched me scoop hundreds of scoops of ice cream last year, or stood in a line of 200 people and waited for 45 minutes. And then we had run out of mint chocolate chip by the time you'd actually made it to the truck. This was not that. I got to connect with students and families and staff. We had ice pops. The ice pops were $100 in total. So a very affordable option. And it was a nice way just to connect. We had a cooler set up under the tree at the middle school. The entire administrative team was invited, and most of them were able to come and welcome parents and students back. So that was really awesome. I got to talk to Allie's mom as well, which was nice to make that connection. She and I had talked before, but I didn't get to make that connection until then. So we had a great welcome back. Thanks to everyone who came. And on Monday, we welcomed new teachers to the district and staff, and that was really exciting. It was a dry run for convocation today. So on Monday, I got to welcome our new staff and, test out my oratorical skills for the year, my bad jokes. And I think it positioned me to be a tinge more engaging today. But really grateful to have our new staff in the district. We had our open house at the middle school also on Monday night. And I was there for a meeting, and so I just happened to be able to connect with parents in the room after that meeting, and it was awesome to see so many familiar faces, parents, kids were excited. So many parents said to me, I don't know where my students are. They're having fun, they're engaged, they don't want to leave. We're coming back tomorrow night for part 2. So that was really good to hear. You want to hear that our middle schoolers want to be in their building. It's great to see staff too. So today was convocation day, which is the day where all staff come back. We had a huge party in the auditorium today. I got to thank Jody Valancourt, Executive Director of Learning, Kristen Romick, Executive Director of Education Support Systems, Tim Jarvis, Delina Gilroy, Meg Collins, all of our principals, assistant principals, our athletics director, Mike Jabor, and Julia McGuire, many other people who made convocation awesome. And we had a phenomenal keynote speaker, Farine Paris, and Farine is a local educator and storyteller. She's also going to be the keynote at Women in Leadership, hosted by the Vermont Superintendents Association and Vermont Principals Association. I'm taking a team of our female leaders to that, so it'll be awesome to see her once again. Her message today was really simple. It was give love, love, and create a soft environment. We face so much hardship in our daily lives, and we don't want that to be the environment here. So I thought the message was really a simple one that resonated, and I talked to a number of teachers after and got really great feedback on that. So it was wonderful to have her. Other open houses are continuing this week, as you heard, elementary schools, and just excited to welcome some of our students back on Friday, and then Monday, the first day of school. Looking forward to it. The life comes back to our schools. So I'll do a quick update on the school tours. Those are in the process of being scheduled right now. Thank you to Delina, who's working on those. I should have the dates for you all in advance of our next board meeting. They're so close to being nailed down, but we're inviting board members and legislators and state senators to tour our schools. This is something that I offer annually. And last year at this time, which is in the year before, so pre-Act 127 budget modification change, I was trying to say, hey, check out our facilities. We really need some construction aid and support. Legislators, how can we work together to provide facilities that can allow us to have optimal learning conditions, or at least ADA compliant ones, right? We've been grandfathered in, so we're not out of compliance, but it's not how we want our children and our students and our neighbors to be learning. So I think we got a little bit of traction on those, and the budget conversations have dramatically changed. I'm grateful for our legislators who provide, awesome communication with me about where we're at with the construction funds. Right now, as a lot of you've heard, North Country, other schools are dealing with significant closures and remediation costs associated with PCBs that the state hasn't funded. So the message that I had a meeting regarding PCBs 2 weeks ago with the state and the Vermont EPA, and they said, you're fine on PCBs now, no need for remediation. However, if you did need them in the future, and we have one school whose results are pending, we have no money for you. So again, I think PCBs are kind of, a really significant piece of that construction conversation, because the state is saying, you've got to comply with these levels that we've determined. And we don't have financial support, and communities can't afford to pass bonds to address some of these massively significant costs, right? Burlington, case in point. So more on that, but that's where I'll shoot the dates on the school tours as soon as they're available. I'll share them with the board and provide the information in our next board meeting. So I provided a little bit of information on transportation. I should have added this in the agenda, and I'm sorry of modifications, but if I may take the liberty to provide a quick update around transportation, just in addition to the staffing pieces that I shared. Did I cover all of that? I'm looking back at my notes here. I think I gave you all the highlights. We're getting new candidates. We are still in a very grave position right now. It's all hands on deck to get things turned around for the start of the school year. But we're hopeful and appreciative of the board for modifying bus drivers' pay so that we can be competitive. But look for the commercial, share it with your friends. We're offering a referral bonus for any employee who refers a bus driver. We're getting a banner made for a bus. I approved the copy on the banner the other day, and it's beautiful. So looking forward to that. And we're continuing to boost ads on Instagram, which is $5 for a boost. So it's a pretty extremely economical way of doing that. So those are the updates on transportation. Please know that this is our #1 operational need, and we're aware of the concerns and really doing everything we can with the board's side letter being that final push that we could put forward. So, a bus driver, reach out to us anytime and welcome them to the team. So I think that concludes my report. Thanks, Chelsea.
All right, so we have a placeholder for brief recess warrant for 6:45. I'm guessing we don't need to see that. Okay. So that would move us along to our action item. And Laura will be joining us. I wonder if we could I think Laura should be here for an action item. So if we could do our other agenda stuff when she gets here. Let's move to agenda item 9. We'll come back to agenda item 8, reports by the board. So first we have a policy tracker spreadsheet. Tim, you emailed that to me. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, if you want to, that's fine. This will be really, really quick. I struggle with finding policies and looking them up online and everything. And I tend to work out of spreadsheets and like to filter and have a little more data. So what I did send the board was a Google sheet that has a list I'm still working on it and building it out. You'll see a couple of tabs in it. You'll see just an intro and then the list of the policies on one tab. And you'll see a pivot table where I'm sort of like, here are all the policies under this category, so on and so forth. But I have linked out all of the policies. I've also put into the tracker the brief description of the policy, and I included how many pages it is, because that's sometimes indicative of the level of information you'll find in it. So I will continue to build this out, but I also included the last time that the policy was approved or reviewed, so we can see sort of quickly if there are, would maybe something we want to consider looking at in the future. But again, it's just how I tend to approach stuff, and I just wanted to share it with the board and everybody in case you wanted to take advantage of this.
That's great.
There are a lot of policies, so.
I definitely think that this is really helpful. And as we approach budget season, I'm excited about the adult learning series videos that you're making. So if I can help you with this to free you up for that project, let me know.
We just gotta buckle down on those.
I have to tell you, I had a meeting with Interim Secretary Saunders and the Champlain Valley Superintendents on Friday. And I asked specifically, I asked what level of assurance could be provided that, there wouldn't be modifications in the ed funding formula. She said that's at the whim of the legislature. So it was enough of a glimmer of hope that, I think our advocacy efforts that Gracie had emailed me about advocating, so we're gonna kick that into high gear. But related to that, I said, you know, what's your timeline for rolling out and supports? And she said, well, we're gonna be discussing educational videos, in September. I said, well, our board is doing that now, because, we've got a real need to educate the community. So any materials, we receive, I'll certainly share. It sounds like their timeline is going to be much later than kind of the education period that we're gonna need to engage in. So I don't know if their timeline, will jive with ours, because I think we'll be pretty deep in budget development at that point, and we'll have moved from that education phase to more nuts and bolts. But I'll keep you all apprised of any updates
Short.
as it relates to your video development.
I'd agree, and even if we're at a point where, we've got a few of them in
Yeah.
place, and we'd like to have them look at them to confirm that we're on the right track and what we're saying, that would also be approved by the state.
I don't know if, not sure we get that level of. I don't know if that's how it happened, but.
It's
okay.
I don't know what your process is, but if there's anything that I can do to help make that.
It's
like,
slow.
I know editing takes things really long time.
Creativity takes time, Tim.
Well, I don't know if you've ever done like native video before with the voiceover, but it takes way longer to edit that than you would think.
One thing I got an award, as you know, Screencastify, #2 in the district. I made so many videos. And what I realized was you have to just be a one-take wonder. And if you make a mistake, you make a mistake and you move on. But that would be my thing. Maybe not one take, but I got to the point where it was one take, one.
We already have.
I have a one take wonder in the audience.
Now we have one take Williams,
Yes,
one take Gable in the house.
yes, our resident movie star knows
Yeah.
all about it, so, yeah. That's
Thank you.
unsolicited advice there.
The next discussion for reports by the board is recent or planned community engagement activities. You two had a listening session last week. Do you want to speak at all about that?
I really strongly encourage anybody who has anything to offer at all. Any questions to ask, any come to the listening session, we're more than happy to help and to be available to anybody.
And because, there was just the two of us. We had a great. Yeah, but it was great. The library was great. And the next one's September 11th. So. And we'll see Front Porch Forum. And the newsletter, right? And then. Is there somewhere else we should put it?
I just don't think we're busy in the summer.
I know, right, it's true.
And that's what we said is probably just
100%,
an
yeah.
August
Yeah.
thing, the school hasn't started yet and.
Right, so maybe it will.
I think it's awesome you're doing that. People are gonna attend. I've had
Yeah.
so many folks ask me about it, so we'll just keep advertising it. I think Front Porch Forum is a really great place to spread that message, so it's the time of year.
Yep.
Speaking of Front Porch Forum, I have now posted 2 updates from your school board on our behalf, where I'm trying to outline the discussion topics in the meeting, remind people about our meeting, where it is and how to access it. Have you guys seen that?
I have.
Yes,
That's
yes,
awesome.
it's great.
I think it's
Okay,
awesome.
So I'll keep doing that. Okay. Great.
Can I just suggest that you make sure it's on the cell phone media too? I don't really use that very much, but I don't know how many.
Um,
I think that's all we have. Anything else to add?
Just to reiterate that we may not be able to answer everything, but we will definitely make strong note of it and discuss.
I attended convocation this morning and I was able to give an award on behalf of the board to a member of staff. It was really special. And it was just really great to see the energy and, you know, as board members, we're not usually privy to that sort of environment and it was really wonderful.
Nice.
I don't know why this is just really sticking in my head, but Laura, remember when we were doing our evaluation of the superintendent, you mentioned that Violet's dry humor sometimes is like what keeps you here. You were saying you ran your speech by your 4-year-old to try and see how your jokes would land, and I feel like there was a joke that came out of your mouth today that you did not plan at all, and it landed very well.
That's true.
She was inviting someone onto the stage and she was looking for them in the audience, but they were behind her on the stage already walking and
Wow.
it startled her. And she said, oh, you're like a Prius in a parking lot. Couldn't hear you coming.
Oh, that's good.
Very good.
That's
So, it was just delightful to see you in that work mode. Like we see you in this work mode all the time, but you're just, I think you're a wonderful leader. So anyway,
It was good, yeah, you drive a Prius,
I
so I
drive a
can
Prius.
appreciate that.
okay, so I think that concludes agenda item 9. We skipped 8, which is our action item until you could be here, Laura, so that you could join us for the conversation. Are we ready to dive in? Yes, okay, so agenda item 8, action items, we're reviewing our executive limitations policy 2.1, treatment of students and parents and guardians, and this is warned for action. So Superintendent Nichols, do you have anything to note on your report?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm reporting policy compliance in all categories. The most significant change here is the implementation of for grades 6 through 12 to have student phones in cell phone cases to allow students to learn and teachers to teach. There's been a significant and growing body of research that has provided a lot of clear information about some of the causes of cell phone use in classrooms. The anxious generation, Jonathan Haidt's work is something that's gotten a lot of attention lately. Some of you might have read about this in the paper. We started this conversation, I would say in the spring, started hearing from a lot of parents, community members, guardians about cell phone use. And, I know the board has been engaging in the topic since that time. And, I recommended that the board examine this topic through our treatment of students monitoring report, what this could look like. And so from an operational perspective, we've made this decision and shared it with the community. This is something that a lot of our neighbors are doing. It's happening in Chittenden County, Addison County, Lamoille is in the paper recently. So our neighbors have done this, some of them for some time. As we were doing some research, we learned CBSD implemented a policy around this rather than a procedure in 2018. And so Essex Westford, actually implemented this last year, and then this year, a no cell phone policy for adults. So, there's been a lot of conversation in the community. I know the conversation will continue to evolve. But in the absence of a policy, this is an internal step that we're making. And, there's going to be bumps in the road and a lot to figure out. It looks different at every grade level. The elementary school is cell phone free. Of course, there are some parents, guardians who choose to, whose students have phones. So they're either in backpacks, not out on desks or anything. Mid-year last year, the elementary administrators made a change to disallow the use of smartwatches. So Apple Watches is more recognizable for some folks. At the middle school, communication was sent to parents and guardians regarding this change. Received a lot of really wonderful supportive feedback. One really great question that we got from several parents and guardians was around watches. And a lot of the emails looked like this. thank you so much. This is needed, this has been a long time coming. Glad this is done. And please just let me know if I need to provide a good old fashioned watch that ticks to my kids. That's at different age levels, smartwatches are more of a question. And obviously, as students get older, there's more of a cell phone use. So this is not a cell phone ban. Obviously, it's not a board policy. And students in grades 6 through 8 will have phones in the locked cases for the duration of the day, and we'll retrieve them at the end of the day from those classrooms. At the high school, students' phones will go in cases in individual classrooms. And we have ordered all of those cases, and we'll be all hands on deck putting them together this weekend. Something that Amazon doesn't tell you is that they come in 47 pieces, these kits. So like when I don't have fingertips on Monday morning.
Are they locked? Do they leave that locked?
Yeah, so they do have the ability to lock these cases. So your clear cases. The high school is using some nice verbiage. They were referred to as cell phone homes, right? So there's a lot more conversation that will happen. Obviously, the board is talking about policy, but this is an operational change that, it isn't a ban, but it's absolutely, to borrow the words of a high school administrator, a step in the right direction. So
What do the high school teachers say?
So this is all very new conversation, right? So I've gotten I met with a few teachers this summer. We're like, cell phones are a massive problem. We're not able to teach, right? This was discussed with the high school. So today's the first day back for staff, right? So the high school staff had their staff meeting where the specifics of the logistics were shared. And the staff had really great questions, some of them were, things were noted, like one staff member said, this has been a long time coming. And a lot of really good logistical questions. I would say that, and I'll let folks in the room or anyone who is a part of that staff speak, but what I heard is an acknowledgement that there's cell phone addiction and that we're going to have to work through that. And it's on the part of parents and students. One thing that I really want to stress is that we know we need to all have shared communication. So it's administration, it's teachers, it's students, it's parents, it's me, it's us, all being on the same page. When we learn from our neighbors, and Laura, I know you're in a district where, you're in a high school where this happens. The implementation pieces that I've really been curious about learning about have all yielded the same result, which is consistency immediately applied is what is going to make this effective. If it's not, then the whole principle is eroded. And the importance of talking to parents and guardians about this is significant. So this is going to be messaging from me in my newsletter, from the board and front porch forums. I am working on a press release. We've got to be really making sure that we're communicating with the community about what's happening and why. And then, the high school leadership team and elementary and middle, all of our leadership teams are going to have to continue to have conversations throughout the year and fine tune this. How's it going? What do we need to work on? How do we support students? How do we support staff and parents and guardians? And districts around us right now are a few years ahead of us, and they're having conversations about, some are having conversations about full bans. Some are having conversations about staff bans, or some are implementing these things, right? So the conversation is happening and folks are in different places. So
Two observations that I would like to offer as the mom of a middle school student First of all, I think that parents as well need to remember, and I'm so glad that Suzanne mentioned this in her letter to parents and guardians today, that all you have to do is call the school and they can get a message to a kid right away. You don't have to text your child directly. You can get a message to the school, just like you did in elementary school, and they can get that child right away. The other thing I think is really important to remember, I ran a PTO PISA thing at open house. And where was in, I think, sixth grade, the beginning of seventh grade. And, we had a QR code, and parents and guardians had to go outside to have phone accesses. Phone access in the building is incredibly spotty. Part of having an older building that is brick, they don't have red access anyway, so I think it's really important to know that they don't always work anyway in the building.
So
Can I just say, I understand, I mean, this is not sure how, if we're really going down the path here with this discussion, that really should be a warrant item on the agenda. I understand it's part of, comes up in the eval, but this has a lot of potential to, have a lot of feedback, and I think it really warrants a lot more discussion and a lot more review, right? So I just want to say, I appreciate the discussion, but just not comfortable going much further with this without having an agenda item where the community is aware of the discussion and give me
I can sort of feel that. So I think that this is where we're starting with this conversation. And the board, to be clear, the board has not taken any action, and taking action on this monitoring report is not necessarily taking action on the cell phone topic. I think that this is actually a really nice opportunity for this team to start and potentially finish a policy discussion. And from my view, like all of us have had experiences coming into different policies when it's already part of the way through the process. So this is the first time that this team, as we sit here now, will pick up an issue and take it all the way through the community engagement process, the policy review process, all of that. So just to clarify, like, we will have a lot more discussion about this. I think particularly we need to decide, do we leave this in operations and let operations take this, or does our district need board support in policy to make effective change that's to the benefit of our students and staff?
that's what I was thinking of. I've been collecting phones for 9 years. And kids were recording me, putting on Snapchat, and I've never gotten over it. It was actually kind of a terrible experience, and anyway, so what I'm saying is that I was doing that on my own, which was exceedingly difficult to do. So now, yeah, and I'm hesitant to get into operations, and I would love to hear from teachers, although I have yet to meet a teacher that doesn't think this is a problem. And even like if say, oh, they're not, given the addiction aside, these phones buzz about 25 times an hour. It is constant interruption, and and not all kids have them, but someone using a phone is distracting to everybody around them, and it's all the things. But yeah, it is. I mean, I do feel pretty strongly about it, but again, I don't know if that's our purview. And I would hope that with teachers and administration, that there would be a very strong. There has to be steps in place, and the teachers cannot be left to deal with this on their own, because and for the most part, my experience is most kids just do it. In fact, they're kind of relieved. It's really, they don't care. It's 80 minutes, whatever. It's if you do get into this, you really do want the support of admin. And honestly, what we have found at Essex is that it just takes 1 or 2 kids to have their phones taken away, and then everyone falls in line. So again, I don't know if this is like, if the high school teachers, if they're on board with this. I would think like the ninth graders would be relatively easy because they're coming out of the middle school already not having phones. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, from my, and honestly, as a teacher, phones are the things that's gonna drive me out of this profession. Because I can't do my job anymore. I really just can't do it. But now, but now that I do have the support of that, and the phones are not, they're not an issue. The kids seem to be fine. So, anyway, yeah, so I don't know if that helps or not, but that's my person.
Laura, can I just clarify, when you say they're not an issue, they're put into.
We have phone
cases.
caps.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so it's like numbered 1 through 30. And every child has a number, I do name tags and numbers, and that number goes, and that's how I take attendance, just like that. Your phone's up there, you're not here. You get one unverified, oh, and the phone goes, parents get called. I mean, I'm not saying this is what people should do. This is what has worked for me, and it has worked really pretty well now that, like the administration was part, but that everybody came together and faculty asked for that. So that's why I'm wondering if faculty are asking for this. But again, I don't know.
I think largely I've heard it from parents emailing the board directly. I haven't heard it from, so that could be a
Right.
question for Violet.
Right. Right, I don't know if that's something that.
I
don't
think
the
I-
union has done a survey, or there's been a survey done to
I-
teachers.
I don't know about that. I did get an email directly from a student actually, and I directed them, I actually copied you on my reply and directed them to work with you as the board reps. Do you have? And I'm sure you have input on this discussion.
Yeah, well, we haven't heard anything from the person that emailed us, but Ally and I spoke about this yesterday, and we both strongly support, the policy change, I guess, the enforcement change. And I'm honestly not sure how well it'll go over amongst students in the beginning, but cell phone use is certainly an issue and disrupts education and makes it hard for teachers to teach. So yeah, I think that it's really great. And like you said, I think it just making the standard consistent among all teachers will be really crucial to create an expectation for students, like in all classrooms. But yeah, I think that once it's in place for a few weeks or so, it'll just become more.
Right, see what, that's a good point too. It's really helpful if it's a rule, as a teacher, I can say, hey, that's the rule.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And look, you gotta go down to the office and turn that phone, and that, cause it. The job of a teacher has become really difficult. And this is not making it easier. And then if you add this on, it is really helpful to have. Admin kind of take the heat for that.
Mhm.
And it does, yeah.
So is the question, should it be a part of the policy or remain an operations kind of thing?
I think,
So
I think.
Can I just?
Oh, we have to wait.
So
Okay.
so I'll just give you some clarity. We're gonna have board discussion and then I'll invite public comment.
Okay,
And then,
I want clarity about the discussion you're about to have, because I don't understand it, so, okay.
Okay, wait,
I'm
wait,
just,
wait, wait.
I just move that can we table this discussion? It should go into an agenda as a topic, so we can take testimony appropriately. I understand that this, because I think we're gonna run the risk of getting into some sort of discussion that really we haven't warned appropriately. So,
but we're not taking action.
We're
on
not
cell
taking
phones
action.
Tonight, we're starting a discussion and then we can put this on the agenda for our next and more after that. Like, we're not taking action on any policy. So anyone who is here to comment on cell phones will have the opportunity to do so. And in the future, we'll have more opportunities for people to comment. So you were just saying that, Laura, that it's helpful to have admin support as a teacher. And following Gracie's comment that consistency among teachers is really helpful. And
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah, that was the main thing we had discussed, was the fact that if all teachers are enforcing it, it will go well over more with students here. And then the other thing we had discussed was that the main thing we'd like to see is like good communication with students about options for contacting people outside of the school during the day. Since it is a big problem with social media and everything, but I think a lot of people are also on their phones to contact parents. So letting kids know, like first day of school on announcements, if you need to contact your parent, there's a cell phone right in the office, you can, something like that.
I grew up in a spot in the state that still does not have cell service. So I actually remember using the office phone frequently to call my mom about things that I forgot at home. I'm also interested to see with this operational change, I think like it would be helpful for the board, and this is just my perspective, if we're gonna consider a policy to be able to see how this implementation affects the schools over the next year in data. Particularly, I would be interested in noting if there's any decrease in bullying, hazing, harassment, and bullying, because that would be really compelling data for me in considering a policy in the future. Okay, any further board discussion at this point? Why don't we take public comment and then we will take action on the monitoring report after.
Great, thanks. I just, this is not a,
Can you state your name?
yeah, sorry, my name is Lisa Hickey. I'm a parent of 3 kids in the school district. I am just confused about the conversation you guys are having with each other about whether this should be policy or operational. My understanding was that like, I don't really know, but I'm surprised to see that this is something the board needs to discuss and that the district can't just say this is how we do things. And so I'm wanting to understand the conversation that you, Tim and Chelsea were having with each other about like, well, should we do it this way? Should we do it that way? Because that's not clear to me at all.
Okay.
And also if you're gonna put it on a list of things that need to be addressed and dealt with for public comment, then it won't be implemented at the beginning of school. And that to me seems possibly detrimental to the policy in and of, like, what you're trying to achieve. So
So,
I'm just trying to understand
Yeah.
the mechanisms of how the board decides what's what.
yes,
Thank you.
I can answer this right now. This is a clarifying question. Your question is about our governance model, which is policy under governance. And so what the difference is, our superintendent as the executive of our organization has the authority to make any operational policy procedure change that she sees fit for operations. That's,
That doesn't have, there are limitations.
well, there are limitations.
Within the limitations.
Yes, within our 2.0 limitations. And we're monitoring one of those policies tonight, 2.1 treatment of students and parents and staff. And so there is no policy from the school board on cell phones right now. There's an operational change on procedure within the schools under the authority of the superintendent.
Right.
So the discussion Tim and I are having is, can we leave it there? Is that good enough?
Mhm.
Or as a board, do we need to take up the issue of implementing a policy from the board that says this is how the district will operate around cell phones?
Right.
And that process takes a long time.
Yeah.
So, so this will be this operational change will be implemented as soon as Violet says so.
Okay,
Yeah, done.
okay, thank you.
Does that
That's
help?
helpful because I didn't understand all of that.
Yeah. And I think her noting this in the monitoring report as a change is helpful. It's a helpful cue to us as something to look at. And that's kind of, it's arrived, I would say, after a lot of feedback and comments directly from parents and in one case, a student asking us, hey, you should look at this. Yes, please come up and state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm a parent and a teacher. You were asking about teachers. I can obviously only speak for myself, but I think this is a long overdue step. I think phones create an enormous burden for kids and you know, a lot of half-an-hour bathroom trips with your phone, a lot of really unfortunate things happen when kids are out of the room with their phone. And so I don't care what you call it, if it's a policy or an action or whatever, but I think it's long overdue and I will be your biggest advocate. So thank you.
Any other public comment in the room?
Oh, yes.
Just
So
state
Mark
your-
Gable,
Yeah.
yes, bus number 6. And as is the norm, transportation was way ahead of the curve last year on this policy. Just kidding. But we did have a no cell phone on bus 6 policy on Fridays, no cell phone Fridays. And you can imagine how that went over the first couple of times. And I heard a lot of, Mark, you can't do this. And I said, well, it's my bus. I can do whatever the hell I want to do. I didn't, but I basically. And so and what I found was, I have that great big mirror. I spend way too much time looking at it. I would just look up in the mirror and say, Molly, are you looking at your phone? And Molly would shove her phone in her backpack. And so the deal was 1 day a week, I didn't ask much, but I asked they put their cell phones away and quote, talk cordially to the neighbor next to them. And maybe find something out about them that they didn't know before they got on the bus. And it worked. He didn't love me for it, but they did it consistently for all of 3 weeks at the end of school. We'll see what happens this year. But, my experience, call them out and they'll put them away. But there's always that one kid who gets off the bus and goes, hey, Mark. And it's like, okay, so the watch saying is, yeah, would be an issue. Thank you.
Hi, Allison Mayo, South Burlington. And I have a incoming 6th, 5th, and first grader. And huge proponent of this, super supportive of it, and I would be happy to come back and speak when this is officially worn. My question is, I guess I'm tracking somewhat the difference between a policy and a procedure from a governance perspective, but from an action perspective, we're still saying you can't use your cell phone in school. So what's the real difference?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to figure out like a good analogy to explain it.
I take a whirl.
Sure.
So because I as superintendent cannot, this is under governance, I can say treatment of students, cell phones impacts students, it falls under here. I could also say it impacts teachers, right? So at the end of the year, when we monitor that report, we can talk about how it's going, what's happening. The board could implement an outright ban, and that would be something that would have significant operational changes that we would have to abide by. So there is no board policy banning cell phones. The board is, as a body, silent on any policy, capital P policy, for cell phones. That would require a lot of community engagement, and that would take a significant amount of time. So this is an operational change in lieu of an outright ban or any sort of directive from the board. Some boards in the country and the state are implementing left and right outright bans. So this isn't that. The board would have to make a decision on a cell phone ban or a cell phone policy. Other districts in Vermont, other communities are having this conversation. If the operational pieces that we've implemented, which are similar to our neighbors, is that sufficient? So the board is grappling with, is it sufficient to have an internal process of how are we handling devices? Or does the board want to warn this and make a policy and say, have a lot of community discussion and even change what has been implemented for the fall?
I would tack on to that it's important that the board consider what the fallout of implementing a policy could be. So like, I would not encourage the board to go through a policy process and then have things happen operationally that contradict the policy and make it difficult for our staff to do their job. So that's another piece that we have to like have a zoomed out lens, because it's my philosophy that the broader the policy, the easier it is for our schools and our staff and our students to understand how they are to behave and what the expectations are. And the more finite the policy gets, the harder it is to be creative with solutions, That's part of the process, the idea.
I think of it sort of, and you can tell me if I'm totally on the wrong track here. I think of it sort of as like an amendment to the Constitution of the United States. It takes a really long time and lots of discussion, so it's really takes a lot to make an amendment to the Constitution. There could be like small changes that are implemented at a local or state level that are not national. Does it sound like a reasonable analogy? That's good.
It seems like semantics to me, but this is above my pay grade, so I will leave you guys to figure out where it belongs, but I do think just from a tactical implementation of what I read from the email that I got, which was from Suzanne, because I have the middle schooler, and I think I saw something loose from Lissa that came through, in her memo. But I would like to see something more firm come through on the elementary level, because devices are absolutely an issue. On the bus is one thing, but you got kids using their devices on the playground, asking their mom to bring them something they forgot at home, or trying to text another friend that's at the playground. So I just think that earlier we can put a stake in the ground on the fact that this is a place of learning, and this is a place to develop your social and emotional learning at the same time. And that means having face-to-face conversations with your peers on the playground and in the lunchroom. I think it's gonna pay dividends, and I'm just really pleased to see whatever stake in the ground this is, procedure, policy, whatever. I'm glad that there's going to be no cell phones. That's the way I'm taking it, at least. So thank you very much.
Somebody online.
Online.
Could we unmute share, please? Share, are you there? And are you prepared to?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Hello,
We can hear you.
you can hear me. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm on my phone. I don't usually take Zoom on my phone, so I apologize. Thank you guys so much for taking this on. This I think is a really, really important issue. As a nurse and as a parent with 3 kids in the district, I have seen this become increasingly a problem over the years. I am so excited you guys are forward thinking. I'm really excited to see the outcomes of this at the end of the year, both academically, socially. I just think it's great. I will say I would love for you to consider implementing a cell phone ban throughout the day. I sent, I'm sure you're all familiar with Jonathan Haidt. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, H-A-I-D-T. He's the author of The Anxious Generation. I actually know him and have a connection with him, and sent the email from the high school to him to get his perspective. And actually I sent it in a like, look, you're making a big difference. Even here in Vermont, we're looking at this. And his response surprised me. He was like, no, not enough. He said, this is going to help the teachers a little. However, when the kids are on their phones in the cafeteria and the hallways, it's not good. And I think as adults, we need to really be careful in how we implement this. I love that we're doing anything, so don't take this as negative feedback. I just really encourage us to look at the big picture. And I know we have to do things in steps sometimes, but we only get one chance to get this right at first. And my fear about this is that we are going to implement this in the classroom, and then the kids, all the high school kids, are going to not run out, but go out into the hallways and into the cafeterias, and we're still not going to be talking. If any of you have walked through the high school during the day, which I have, everybody's heads in their phones, everybody, and nobody's talking. And I would really, really, really love to encourage the district to just take this head on and just think about the idea of really eliminating cell phone use during the school day, so we can return back to a way that we should be communicating, teach our kids to look each other in the eyes and to have real conversation. So huge kudos for taking this on. I'm obviously a massive advocate, and I ask us to kind of like look even at the bigger picture and just consider that anyway. So thank you guys.
So that's what Jim was saying, like that, like an all-out ban, that is not. I mean, I've seen it done. And you go to any high school in Japan, there is no phone out from 8 to 5, ever. Same with Cuba when I went. They all have phones, but there's no phone out, but that would take like an active Congress, right, Elaine? Yeah,
That
so
would be board policy.
that will be board policy, but that is something we are not.
Well,
Well,
that's what
that's
we're.
the question is, what is the policy of the board? And we don't have a policy, so right now it's operational.
Right now, it's operational
So
only,
the
exactly.
question is, do we want to implement a policy? And what would that policy say? That's the way my perspective is. That's
That's what
why,
that's how I
as we
see it.
move forward, I know we've consumed a lot of time with this conversation right now. But it strikes me that we will move forward with some type of policy specific to cell phones because there is a lot of energy around this. I just want to make sure that we are hearing all perspectives, and we are not having a conversation where people a month later come back and say, hey, I heard you talked about cell phones. What, we didn't even know you were talking about it, and we wanted to participate. So that's my concern right now.
So
As
is
a
it,
reminder, we read our policies 3 times, so they're on warrant agendas 3 times before they're adopted. So, and I think it would be, this is a great conversation to have community engagement. I think people will be really passionate, and maybe we'll come to a listening session to share their thoughts.
yes, that would be great, actually.
I think this is a great opportunity for us as a board to engage our community, because I think this is an issue people really care about. And I haven't really heard the other side of the argument at all, and that would be part of the process,
Yeah.
if there is one, so.
So should it be tabled until then?
Okay, so just to be clear, the board is not
Well, we're
taking
not- I know,
any
sorry,
action
sorry, just-
on the operational changes that Superintendent Nichols and administration
Got it.
are implementing for this
We're
school
just
year.
talking about
The
That
reason
is,
we're discussing it is because Superintendent Nichols noted it in the monitoring report,
got it.
but we're not taking any action on cell phone policy at the board level tonight. We will be taking action on the monitoring report that encompasses the entire 2.1 policies of treatment of students and families and guardians.
Great, thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
And there will be ongoing discussion on board policy, which this is not, this is operational and it's not a ban.
Right.
It's just the start to why we need to have the policy discussion. That's what this is.
Yeah, thank you for your patience. so.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's helpful learning opportunity too, because it is complicated and confusing, policy under governance. I've said this before, and I'll just keep saying it. When I joined the school board, I was not doing what I thought I would be doing. And then I learned what policy governance is, and I completely believe in it and understand, and I'm glad that we are a district that uses it, but it is confusing, because you can't just like come here and be an activist. You have to be a policy maker.
Yeah,
Very
different.
Very different things. Okay, so is there any other public comment on this for now? Okay. So any other notes from your monitoring report, board discussion now on any other questions, comments about the monitoring report? 2.1.
I always get confused when they say fail to, when it's like a negative in there. It always, like, wait a minute.
Because the executive limitations, which is the constraints Chelsea referenced earlier, it says that the superintendent shall not fail to.
Okay,
do
right,
these
right,
things.
it
It's
is,
double negative.
it's a double negative.
Yeah.
So, or are we going to talk about each individual portion, or do we just want to provide comments back to Violet? So on, just a couple of comments, Violet, detailed policy number 1, illicit information for which there is no need. I liked your interpretation. My only comment on that is, you mentioned requirements to participate in district, state, or federal programs. I'm wondering if that also, and you may think of it this way, but I didn't see where it said anything about being in compliance with state or federal law.
Yeah, so we are in compliance. So one of the state and federal components here that we elicit feedback is through Title I, which requires a certain amount of engagement and feedback. So those are areas where we are in compliance and we do.
Yeah, I just mean, I think you're fine from the evidence and everything. I just didn't equate a program to a law, right? Because
Got
a
it.
program doesn't necessarily imply that you're adhering to law. So from an interpretation perspective, I just wanted to
Yeah,
call
yeah,
that out, so.
thanks, Tim.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I want to take,
I think, why don't you just go through?
okay, I've only got a couple here. My other, comment, so detail policy number 4, fail to operate facilities with appropriate accessibility and privacy. So I guess this is a question to the rest of the board as we consider this. You have your statement, with voter passage in March of 2023 with a $14.55 million bond, et cetera, et cetera. These conditions will be addressed in due course. My question is, are we technically out of compliance then? Because we don't have these fixed, but there should be a compliance or plan put in place for this.
Yeah, it's a great question. Tim and I had a fair amount of discussion about this year, as we did the last time we prepared this report for you. So, should this not, some of our conversation went like this: should we report policy non-compliance? What we would be required to do is to put a plan in place. What we have is our facility stewardship plan, which shows our planned maintenance and what is scheduled to be done using the bond money. So from a technical perspective, even though I referenced earlier in the high school, for instance, we have weight-bearing, load-bearing walls that cannot be widened to meet ADA standards. However, we've been grandfathered in. So technically, there is not a lack of compliance, but from our end, we recognize that as a need. And so as we talk about the need for a rebuild of the high school, one of the reasons for that is because we know from the Doran Whittier studies that the renovation of that to move those weight-bearing pillars is a comparable cost as a rebuild. So this is a really interesting piece here, and I could have gone either way and reported lack of compliance. What made us switch from so this is the third time I've prepared this report for you. The first time I reported non-compliance, then we got the bond money and we got the ZEMS. And so that was enough for me to say, we've got a facilities stewardship plan with teeth behind it because we have funding. So some of these, so I feel because of that, we have a plan to address these. And yet it is still very much true that we are in grave need of middle and high school level facilities. So.
Laura and Chelsea, do you recall, so when the last time this was reviewed, was it reported as non-compliant and then there was a plan in place? Or how did that?
That's kind of what I remember.
It was compliant last time because we'd passed the bond.
Right.
The first time, 3 years ago, so not 3 full years, but the first time was non-compliance because it was pre-bond, pre-ZEMS.
So there was no ability to make the changes that you needed to. So even if you put a plan in place, you didn't have any way to.
It was
fund
like, there is no end in sight here.
Right.
And so, we started to put some of the pieces in place. Again, Tim and I have had a fair amount of conversation on this for time, and I could see this going either way. Again, when I report, I'll remind the board and folks in the room, if I report non-compliance, it comes with the compliance plan. So the compliance plan here is the facility stewardship plan, which articulates how we're going to make these upgrades. One of the other issues, though, is we're still dealing with shortages. So
Right.
this summer, we put heat pumps to allow for air conditioning in 2 of our elementary schools. The high school project had to be tabled till next summer, the summer of 25, because we couldn't, the company who won the bids, we have to put everything out to bid. So the company that won the bid didn't have the labor capacity to do the high school, even though they won the bid. So it's nuanced, and you wouldn't have to twist my arm for me to say we're out of compliance.
Well, it sounds like legally, right? Like
Legally, we're grandfathered in, so
Okay.
it's not a technical
So,
violation,
But
but functionally,
functionally and
it is,
humanely, we
yeah.
need to do so, which we know.
yeah.
So that's just why I'm asking.
Yeah.
So as we vote on this,
Right, because I do remember this now, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Violet. I appreciate that. And my only last question, is going back to detail policy number 3, and this involves, methods of collecting, reviewing, transmitting, or storing student family information and failure to protect against improper access. The systems that we're using, do they support audit trail and break glass? Out of curiosity.
All right, you have exceeded my technical understanding.
So break glass is basically like in a medical piece of departmental software. If you look up a patient record, there is immediately a trail that you looked into it. And this is used a lot, say, in situations in hospitals where you have celebrities. And somebody goes in and looks at a record that's considered break glass, if it's been flagged as such. Audit trail is really an audit trail. You did look at a record, everybody gets treated the same from a perspective. So I'm just curious because we've got a lot of these systems that you're talking
Yeah.
about, and I just want to make sure of that.
So Cher, you can say no to me here, but we have, Cher is a nurse and she uses our SNAP software, which is it's where our student medical records are shared. Cher, if you can hear me and you're willing, do you know whether SNAP has, I highly doubt it does, first of
I
all.
highly doubt
But do you know off the top of your head whether there is a record of who looked up what in SNAP? So for instance, if I looked up Violet Nichols, 10th grader, health records, is that something that a systems administrator would be able to see?
Most likely, yes. That's typically the way health records work. I don't know from a nursing capacity within the school, but I think the administrator would know. It's a great question for Kara, but most healthcare systems have a way of finding that out. And I'm pretty certain you can see who's accessed a medical record within that system. But don't quote me on that. I haven't gone that deep into it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna find out the answer and I'll let you know.
Yeah,
Well,
and
Thank you,
It
Cher.
looks like we have someone who might have. the
It's
answer.
not according to the.
Oh, Sarah Pineda, district nurse.
Yeah, right, the vector training doesn't say anything.
Can we
Can we
please allow
unmute
her
Sarah?
talking? Hi, Sarah. Can you hear us?
Hi, I can. Sorry for butting in, but I just heard that question. We do have that capability.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were on the call. I would have
Okay.
asked you. And
No-
thank you so much.
No
for providing-
problem.
Wow. I didn't-
I only ask that, and that's the health related software, but the other software that you have, I'm just curious, and I don't see it as an issue with the compliance report. I'm just wondering to
Yeah.
what level you can track who looks at what information. Because there's significantly more personal information in these systems that we would, like, if somebody wanted to look up grades, right? There must be a way to track.
Because I just did my vector training today. And
Yep.
They don't mention this. There's no mention of those two things that
Well,
you just said.
And for employees, it would be helpful for them to know that there is an audit trail, that there is
Yeah,
break glass, because,
I never even heard of this, so.
so,
Yeah, it's an
okay,
excellent question, Tim.
Wow.
that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great questions.
Okay, at this time, are we prepared to take action on this monitoring report? Yes. Okay, so as a reminder, I'm going to read the global policy first, then I'll read each policy detail and I'll ask if we have a reasonable interpretation, if we have adequate data, and if we're in compliance. And the board will answer yes or no. And then after we go through each detailed policy, I will reread the global policy and ask those three questions again. And based on our responses, we will either approve this monitoring report or not. Okay. 2.1 treatment of students and parents and guardians. With respect to interactions with students and parents and guardians, or those applying to be students or parents and guardians, the superintendent shall not cause or allow conditions, procedures, or decisions that are inequitable, untimely, vague, undignified, or unnecessarily intrusive. Further, without limiting the scope of the foregoing by this enumeration, the superintendent shall not: 1, elicit information for which there is no need. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
Yes,
Adequate data?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes.
Yes.
Fail to solicit appropriate input or obtain necessary information to fulfill the district ends policy or comply with the district's policy limitations. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
Yes.
Adequate data?
Yes.
In compliance?
Yes.
It's way easier for me to read this on paper. 3, use methods of collecting, reviewing, transmitting, or storing student family information that fail to protect against improper access to the material elicited. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
Yes.
Adequate data?
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes.
4, fail to operate facilities with appropriate accessibility and privacy. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
Yes.
Adequate data?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes.
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 Yeah, sorry, I'm hesitating, Chelsea, because I forget, it says shall not.
Right,
Yeah, I'm sorry,
and
that's
every
what
time.
was throwing me, so, yeah, I'm with you now.
Would it be helpful if I read?
No,
the
it's okay, I
superintendent shall
got it
not-
now, I got it, yeah,
I think I will, though. It's better for clarity.
okay.
The superintendent shall not fail to establish with students and parents and guardians a clear understanding of what may and what may not be expected from the district. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
Yes. Adequate data?
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes,
Yes.
The superintendent shall not fail to limit the use of live security video systems to crisis situations and to the immediate need of administrators for safety information. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Adequate data?
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes.
The superintendent shall not fail to limit the use of security video recordings to inquiries by the police and the superintendent about potential criminal activity to ensure student, staff, or community safety. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Adequate data?
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes.
The superintendent shall not fail to inform students and parents and guardians of this policy or to provide a way to be heard for persons who believe they have not been accorded protections under this policy. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes.
Yes. Adequate data?
yes,
Yes.
In compliance?
Yes.
With respect to interactions with students and parents and guardians, or those applying to be students or parents and guardians, the superintendent shall not cause or allow conditions, procedures, or decisions that are inequitable, untimely, vague, undignified, or unnecessarily intrusive. Reasonable interpretation?
yes,
Yes.
Yes. Adequate data?
Yes.
Yes. In compliance?
Yes.
Yes. The 2.1 treatment of students and parents and guardians monitoring report is approved.
Nice job, Violet.
Thank you. Okay. That concludes our action items for this evening. Would we like to take a brief recess or do we want to move right on to agenda planning?
Right on.
Okay. Agenda item 10, agenda planning, set the agenda for September 4th meeting. Or does everyone, does anyone have anything to add? Sorry, it's been a long day.
Discussion items, or can we include finance committee again? Is that gonna sort of be a standing item?
We could do that.
yeah, and the listening session, and which we're hoping to get. And if we can. Is it the finance committee?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
finance committee we have on,
Not
For-
sure, I'd suggest.
yes, and by September 4th, the applications for that committee will be concluded.
Oh, okay, that's
But
right.
it will be, will that be enough time for you and Chris to have selected?
Yeah.
So perhaps at the September 4th meeting, you'll be able to announce. the committee?
That's our next meeting, right?
Yes,
September 4th.
Right.
That's a really tight turnout.
That's
That's like
tight,
5
so let me,
days.
and I haven't talked to Chris since we met the last time, so might have to, let me follow up.
No promise, it's warned, so whatever the
Yeah, we'll
update
just-
is, we'll be able to
exactly.
provide it. You wanted to add listening session as,
well, just as a state, that it's on September 11th.
so on reports by the board, recent or planned community engagement activities,
Yes.
at that time, you'll be able to highlight it.
Yeah.
We are reviewing our financial conditions and activities, limit policy monitoring. I'm trying to be sensitive to our meetings being less than 2 hours when possible. I just met with, city manager Jesse Baker and council chair Tim Barrett and Violet earlier this week. Our steering committee meeting is gonna be September 18th. And they're gonna come here to us.
Oh, great.
And what we're gonna do is at 6, we're gonna have the steering committee meeting. We'll conclude the steering committee meeting and we'll have the rest of our regular board meeting following. So I wanna make sure we keep our meeting agenda on the 18th for our school board work as light as possible, given that
Yes.
we'll have the steering committee meeting. So in terms of board meeting work, our September 4th meeting needs to be anything that's urgent, that you wouldn't want to wait until October. So we have some time before we have to warn this, if you need to email me anything you'd like to see on the September
Okay.
4th agenda. And I will email in my update any information about the steering committee meeting that you need to know, including once we have a draft agenda started, I'll make sure you have an opportunity to add anything that you think might be important to discuss at that meeting.
Great.
Okay. So anything else at this time for September 4th?
Do we wanna set a time to have more discussion or something about the cell phone thing, or what do we
Yeah,
want to do with that?
I think the stage that we're at right now is research. But perhaps we could come up with what we'd like our process to look like on the 4th, and you know, including like how much time do we want to spend on research? How many listening sessions, or how many meetings would we like this to be on the agenda for community members to be able to come
People
in?
can come talk to us. And it's just me on the 11th about that, right?
Yes, that's what you said, listening
Is that
session.
just what you said? Yeah, sorry. It has been a long day. That's where I got the idea.
Why don't we, are you amenable to adding to our discussion items on the 4th, cell phones in schools as a discussion topic?
I think the topic should be potentially, what's our plan? Just to lay that out. What I don't want to do is get into a discussion of whether they should be banned or not. I think it's more appropriate to say what should the actions be for the next few months. So that we can work around that. I would be more comfortable with that.
We've got cell policy development discussion.
Exactly. I think that
Yeah,
would be.
love that. Cell phone policy. Okay, anything else? No, we are just clicking right through to me. I'm so glad you're here for this, Laura.
She is the last one where we ended early.
I know. I left my other meeting running, so they're probably wondering where I am.
Sorry. That's what happens when you have lots.
It's what happens when school starts.
Agenda item 11, consent agenda, approval of minutes, August 7th. I just need to check something really quick. I did have it was just an edit that I felt needed to happen, but it doesn't, if it's changed.
Did she take my, I was listed
Yeah.
as there and I wasn't
You're
there.
not there anymore, so that is, if they are now reflected accurately. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from our August 7th meeting?
Yes,
Any questions or changes?
no,
Hearing none, the August 7th meeting minutes are approved. Approval of AP orders. Has everyone had a chance to review AP?
I have a quick operational question. Why sometimes is there a minus sign for the same amount, but it's not red? I'm just not an accounting person, so, for instance, on 1028, there was an amount of $34,468.70. And then a couple minutes later, there was minus $34,468, but it wasn't red. So it wasn't like, I just don't understand what the minus means.
Tim, are you able to answer that question?
Sure, yeah.
He wasn't listening.
May I invite you to provide clarity on, would you be so kind as to join us at your usual spot? Okay, I'm trying to leave ask your question.
Yeah, you gotta say it again, Elaine.
Question on the AP orders, because I'm so not an accounting person at all.
Right.
There is like a figure and then a couple lines later, a minus sign, but it's not red. Like you're subtracting it. You know what I mean? So I'm just wondering what the minus sign.
I'd like to see an example, but it could be a voided check. So that, I mean, we don't make it red, but the minus sign would indicate, most likely a voided check,
Okay,
which would have been put into the system originally as a positive number, and then if it's voided, it's made.
okay.
Is there a
That's great to know.
specific example we could support you with here?
On 1028,
Okay.
there is a quantity of $34,468.70. And then 2 lines later, it's minus $34,468.70.
That would be a voided check.
There's a voided check.
They're often not, I mean, you don't see their name, but when a check is voided, you would, because like I just said, it would have been input into the system originally as if it was a regular payment. Sometimes you find out that the amount has changed, and so you would cancel or reverse out the original check and then rebook it for 35,000 or whatever the correct number was, but.
Who is the payee on this particular example?
I do not
Or
remember.
what page or?
It was 102A, I think it was the first or second page, maybe. It was $34,468.70.
Okay, I see it. 34,000, that, I have one for 375 to amplify for math and literacy supplies. We can follow up offline.
Yeah, I mean, that's
too.
really the only scenario I can think of why it would be negative. It's-
Okay, and there was another AP order where it appeared a couple of times, so I wondered, what's it mean?
It means the amount was wrong. Until
Okay.
I don't
or
see,
in some cases, I mean, another scenario might be.
Oh,
that
I
we
know what this
found
one
out
is.
That it was already paid.
this is Power School. There was, our IT director noticed that we were being charged inaccurately. Power School has a number of services that they offer. So, we noticed that there were inaccurate charges and we were being billed for services that we didn't have. Jody, I'm looking at Jody, she knows, I think probably the technical pieces here. But this is so we have a number of negatives from Power School here on, the fourth page of the AP order 1028. So we're working with Power School on, basically, we're cracking down on money and we're pinching pennies. And if we're looking at bills, do you want to add anything to that? Do you have any light to shed?
I believe they were just trying to get invoices paid that were services that we had canceled.
Yeah.
So he's been in contact with them, and spent a lot of time straightening that out.
Yeah.
The
So
original
we've
invoice
canceled,
Yeah, the original invoice had subscription items that we were not renewing for fiscal year 25. So they needed to be backed out. So
one of the ways that we were able to retain staff last year is through canceling a lot of things like these services. And you see on the fourth page of AP order 1028, you see right in a row charges negative 34,000, negative $548, negative $3,500, negative 11,500, 4,600, negative 15,000. We are, and you're gonna see a lot of these for apps. We canceled a number of apps totaling about $25,000 this week. We are really looking at pinching pennies at this point. You know, in our budget, we made overall spending reductions in lines like technology. So these Power School and app areas, you're gonna see these coming up, and this is us trying to preserve our people and our staff by paring down in lots of areas, you know, and it's across the map. So this is an area where Edward, our IT director, has been really helpful. So, great question.
Thank you.
Thank you, him and Jody, too.
Bob, can I just follow that
Yeah.
statement up with just a quick ask, because I think that's really an important observation you made. As we head into the new budget cycle, considering the kind of pressure we're going to be under, if you have anecdotes like that, maybe you could make note of them so that we can pass it along to the community. To
Yeah.
show that this is at the forefront of what we are thinking and what we are doing, because that stuff sort of gets hidden, all that great work and look.
Yeah,
The cuts are happening, they're just not people at
Yeah.
this point, they're other things.
Yeah, so right now, Seesaw app, Book Creator, Edpuzzle are a few off the top of my head. Edpuzzle's extremely costly. There are many great things that we're having to cut. Cell phones, we had we have 81 district cell phones. You know, many of our neighbors have one phone issued and it's their superintendent. We're making efforts to try to pare down to 30. Those are staff members that we could have. Another off the top of my head, looking at, you know, we have our big industrial printer copy machines that have large ink cartridges. We also have in our buildings many individual printers. And of course, all of these things are great. So, you know, please understand, I don't want to cut any of these things. And yet when we made the decision to keep staff, we made cuts on things like general supply lines. And that's what this looks like in reality. So, you know, individual copiers saying to our administrators, you know, what can you do without? There's a lot of workarounds, like for when I print confidential things, I scan my badge. We have Find Me Printing. So I don't need a confidential printer in my office because I can stand by that machine, scan my badge, and it comes out right when I'm there. Again, these are adjustments we're having to make. You know, again, I'm reminded by my superintendent colleagues, like these are things that a lot of districts have already cut down on, and we just haven't had to be in this position. So it's still really hard, you know, as I have to say to our teams, like, you know, no more food for interview committees, things like this. It's like, they're things that I want our district to have, and yet, I want to prioritize staff because that is what I have heard over and over and over, preserving staff, preserving programming. And in order to do that, we've made the decision that we have to pare down in all of these other areas. So it's really difficult. And given that we had a $3.2 million surplus, so quick math at 100,000 a staff member, that's 62 people. We don't have that $3.2 million surplus next year. So the idea of taking away, you know, paring cell phones from 81 to 30 isn't going to do it. So I just want to be really clear, like this isn't going to save us, but every penny does help at the same time. So it's hard.
Okay, has everyone reviewed AP orders 1028, 1040, 1043, 1089, 1094, 1095, 1096, and 1097?
Yes.
Any questions?
No, I just want to say, Tim, thank you for the Excel format. It speaks to my heart when I pivot that stuff. So thank you.
Okay, the AP orders are approved. And we have some hires.
Yep, we do. So finishing, rounding out our teaching staff here, welcoming Tyler Beeks, math teacher at the high school, and he's filling an open position due to a resignation.
Has everyone had a chance to review the bid request for the tech equipment lease?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. Good.
Good, yeah.
The bid is approved. Okay, agenda item 12, executive session. Do I have a motion to enter executive session under VSA section 313A1 for the purpose of discussing labor negotiations, and that premature public knowledge of this topic would put the district at a clear disadvantage? Do I have a motion?
To go into executive session.
Laura moves. Do I have a second?
I second.
10 seconds. Just 1 second, please. I'll take some notes. Try and get better at that. All right, the motion, all in favor? Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Laura, Elaine, Violet, Tim Warren, and myself will be entering into executive session, and we will not return to open session to adjourn the regular session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.